Hello, everybody. We are looking today at Year 12 General Maths and Year 11 General Maths as well. That's the VCE course. And we're looking at recursion and finance, and specifically, when is the best time to use Finance Solver? So I've run through a few examples, and basically it boils down to whether you got simple interest or compound interest, and then there are specific times when compound interest is appropriate. So here I've got a whole bunch of simple interest questions. Because you're given the recurrence relation, don't use Finance Solver. And also because it's simple interest, don't use Finance Solver, because Finance Solver is all about compound interest. So these ones, don't do it. Okay, same thing with flat rate depreciation. That's the same thing, except you're going down in value. Same reason. It's basically simple interest, but decreasing. So flat rate, no. Same thing with unit cost depreciation. Don't use Finance Solver. Okay, you can hit pause and have a look later. Unit cost, don't do it. Now with this one, it's compound interest investment. And I say maybe because if you're asked to use a recurrence relation, you have to do it that way. With part B, because it asks you for when the investment first exceeds $1,500, you can choose to use the recurrence relation, which is where you hit enter a lot of times, or you can choose to use Finance Solver. So that is an option depending on which you prefer. For the next one, same thing here. A is definitely a no for Finance Solver. Same with C because you're asked to use a recurrence relation. It is a compound interest investment, so you can use Finance Solver to do B. But I think in this case, it's easier to just hit enter on the recurrence relation, which I've done here. But you could if you want to, and you get the same answer. Notice that it's asking you for when the value of the investment first exceeds $2,500. So I just put in a future value of 2,501 cents, 1 cent. And it gives me 3-ish, but the answer is going to be 4 full years. Okay. Compound interest investment again, however, you're asked to write down a recurrence relation, so Finance Solver is not appropriate. For reducing balance, same thing. Part A, you must use the recurrence relation. And for part B, you could use Finance Solver, or you could hit the recurrence relation 6 times. Sometimes you get the name of the value of the car called book value, or whatever the object is. So be aware that that's something that you need to put in your keyword list. So that's what the Finance Solver here would be for that situation. Okay, for this one, similar question again, except actually it's very similar, so I'll just keep going. I'll just show you what the 2 possible solutions would be. 1, 2, 3, 4. 5th year is less than 5,000, and 4 more than 4 gives you 4,999.99. Okay, these ones are different. Because they're asking you to find a rule, in both cases, Finance Solver is not appropriate, even though they are both compound interest in some way. With this one, I would probably not use Finance Solver because all the work is done for you. You're already given a rule. You could, however, if you wanted to, do that. So just make sure you follow what's happening with the Finance Solver. Okay. With this one, reducing balance depreciation, again, the rule is given. And for part A, definitely don't do it because it's asking you for the rule. Part B is asking you to use the rule. Part C is where you're using the answer from part B. So I wouldn't use Finance Solver either. Okay, this one is a maybe. If you're good with recursive relations, I would do it this way. If you do it with Finance Solver, then this would be what you have in your entries. And this here is just my check. So I first get an n value of 6.958. And I'm just going to check it with n equals 6 and n equals 7. And the one that gives me greater than 3,000 as a whole number n will give me the answer of 7 years. Okay. This one is reducing balance depreciation. You can use Finance Solver. And so what I did was I put 10 years in, I put the present value as negative 56,000 and the future value is 15,000 and 0 payments and 1 PPY CPY. And that gave me a negative 12.34, which is a rate of depreciation of 12.34%. You could do it the other way using the rule, Vn equals 56,000 bracket 1 minus r over 100 to the power of n. And then the equation that goes with that is 15,000 equals 56,000, 1 minus r over 100 to the power of 10. And then that's what I put into the equation here. This is what I put as my equation to solve in there, even though it looks funny because this part got, I don't know, mucked around, but it's actually the same. And then I solve with respect to r. Okay. These ones are all no's because you're asked to convert interest rates or find effective interest rates or generate a sequence. With this one, I would not use Finance Solver because there's no percentage change listed and they give you a recurrence relation. So these are the recurrence relations here and they've given it to you. So I wouldn't do it with Finance Solver. This one, similarly, even though it is a reducing balance loan, because they're asking you to construct a recurrence relation, Finance Solver is not going to help you. This one's a reducing balance loan. So it says determine recursively. So that means you have to show all this. Actually, you don't have to show all that. You would just have to list those as your answers. Find the balance of the loan is a maybe, but why would you if you've already done this process here? So you could just pick out that number there for after 2 payments. Is the loan fully paid up? It is a maybe. You could actually use this number here, or if you use Finance Solver, you have this process here as well. With an amortization table, most of the time it's not going to be helpful, but Finance Solver will help you for any balance which is in the balance of the loan, which is why we choose a maybe possibility. There is probably lots of videos where you can find how to work with amortization tables, so I'll leave that with you. This one is a reducing balance loan. The loan will be repaid, so that means the future value is 0. And it's a definite yes for the Finance Solver. And here are my workings out. This one is a yes as well for part A. For part B, you have to use your formulas. Reducing balance loan here, definite yes. And if they don't tell you explicitly, you must assume that the balance is 0 at the end of the loan. That's all there. This was an interest-only loan. The principal is given. So you can use the Finance Solver or you can use the rule. Similarly here, same thing. And this one here is an annuity. Because it's asking you to model the recurrence relation, using a recurrence relation, I wouldn't use Finance Solver. For part A for this one, even though it's an annuity, I can't use Finance Solver for part A. For part B, you could do it. So there's 2 methods here. This method is using the recursive relation, and this one's using Finance Solver. So you could choose either option. Now in this case, it's a definite yes because You're not given any recursive relationship. So definitely finance solver. This one is a maybe. You could either use finance solver or you could use the rule and you'll get the same answer. So now this one here is a special one because it's asking for how much money, which is our principal. Now, if you try it in your CAS, it's not going to work because 2 blank boxes will make your CAS calculator unhappy and it will give you an error message. So you must use the rule and solve for P. So this is my rule here, and if I substitute the right numbers in based on the question, I will get 57,000 blah, 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 which is my investment at the start. This one again is a perpetuity, but this time they tell you the principal, so you can use finance solver or you can use the rule. This one, I wouldn't use finance solver because it asks you to model this investment using a recurrence relation. So that limits your methods. This one is a no for the part A because you're asked to use the calculator recursively. But for part B, you could. I've given you 2 methods here. You could hit enter a lot of times. That's 12 times, I believe. Or you could go to finance solver and put n equals 12. And what about this one here? This is an annuity investment. Annuity, the investment part is the deposits. This case, there's no recursion, oh golly, there's no recurrence relation listed, so definitely a finance solver. Okay, the last few are cases where you don't use finance solver. So if you are asked to generate a sequence or use a Fibonacci sequence, or basically, yeah, that's it. Any of these 3, don't use finance solver. So folks, here is a summary of when to use finance solver or not. If we start with the first question, are you dealing with simple interest or flat rate depreciation or unit cost depreciation? If the answer is yes, we must use the rule or recurrence relation. Do not use finance solver. If the answer is no, then we continue with the flow chart. Are you dealing with compound interest? If the answer is no, we must use the rule or recurrence relation. We stop there. If the answer is yes, we are working with compound interest. Are you asked to use the rule or recurrence relation? If the answer is yes, you must use the rule or recurrence relation. If the answer is no, then the question is it a perpetuity or interest-only loan? If it is not, then you can use finance solver. If it is a perpetuity or interest-only loan, are you asked to find the principal? If the answer is yes, then you must use the rule, not finance solver. But if you are asked to find the principal and the answer is no, you are good to go with using finance solver or the rule. I hope that helps. Thank you very much for listening. Signing off, this is the Math Musician. Have a good day.